Because the incumbent right now, Deborah Bowen, she's had some political experience. She was in the assembly, she was in the Senate district. Right. She's served 3 terms there, and so people may say, he's unknown. Where did he come from? Right. And again, as you say, people follow people. With that being said, what do you think are some of the challenges that you're going to face unseating an incumbent? And then what do you think some of her challenges are going to be running against you?
I think that this election is about the future versus the past. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, even Barack Obama, when he talked about change, he didn't mean change for the Democratic Party. He used change against Hillary Clinton. Let's remember that. And then he went on to use change against John McCain. What he was saying is change against incumbency. It's change against old ideas and old solutions. We live in a 21st century America. That's globalized, a globalized world. We need new ideas and new entrepreneurial thoughts. And Deborah Bowen, she's been in office 18 years in Sacramento. And either she's a strong leader and she created all the problems that we're facing in Sacramento, or she's a weak leader and she couldn't do anything about the problems that we're facing in Sacramento, but the outcome and the verdict is the same. She has to go. And I don't mean that in a mean-spirited way. I mean it in a way of saying, listen, if we objectively evaluate what you've been able to accomplish in office, it has not been anything that's allowed us to get out of deficits, to put us in our K-12 education system back on track, to reduce the unemployment that we're facing, to fix our water issues, any of our critical problems. She's not been a part of the solution.
So how are you going to reach, because again, that was a presidential campaign, right, but how are you going to reach those individuals who are kind of borderline in the fence? They're saying, I'm not quite comfortable with what's going on, 18 years of political leadership, but in the same vein, who is he? I'm seeing him on a viral campaign, but other than that, I don't know. What's your method? How are you going to reach those individuals? Because they're going to be key to the success of your campaign.
What people want to know are the substantive points of what I'm running under. Like, what is the vision that I have for the Secretary of State's office?
Absolutely.
And can I accomplish that? Is that different than what Deborah Bowen's offering? She's offering an administrative approach, no new vision, doing the same old things. I'm offering innovative new solutions. The Secretary of State is the only elected official that gets a notice every time a business shuts down or leaves, because you manage all the business filings and you charter all the corporations as Secretary of State. And we lost 47,000 employers, so businesses, from September 08 to September 09. 47,000.
What do you think that was a direct reflection of?
I think it's going to be tax policy, regulatory policy, a lot of other things, recession, people going out of business. But the Secretary of State should get empirical, intelligent analysis, database, research-driven analysis of why they left. So we don't have to deal with this in generality like I just discussed with you. Mm-hmm. We should do exit interviews. We should send out follow-up questionnaires, whether via email or via follow-up phone calls, and ask companies, why did you leave? Which tax policy, which regulatory policy forced you out? And then let's start categorizing that per industry. How's that impacting real estate, agriculture, trucking, biotech, high-tech, etc. And then we can go back and say specifically, this is how many jobs were lost as a result of this tax and regulatory policy. This is how much economic productivity was lost. Then we take all that information back to the state legislature and we say, this is how the bills that you're passing every year are impacting jobs in our state.
So Damon, people often say when you're running, you have all these great ideas, and I think that that's a wonderful idea. They say that. But once you get in, there's so much bureaucratic red tape, and right, you have to always move mountains just to go an inch. How are you preparing yourself mentally or positioning yourself to deal with those old bureaucratic systems that may or may not exist that will say, there's impossible for you to do exit interviews? Why would you want to do that? We're not equipped to do that. How are you preparing yourself to counter that, to make sure your initiative moves forward?
I have 34 years of preparing myself to do that. You know how many times I was told that a kid that grew up without a dad, whose mom had him at 16, who lost 3 friends to murder, kid like you can't go to Stanford University. You grew up in this community, you're going to die in this community. Kid like you can't own a multi-million-dollar real estate development firm. That's way outside of your reach. And guess what? 99% of the kids in that community did not go on to go to Stanford or own a multi-million-dollar real estate development firm. A kid your size, being 5 foot 10 inches, and light in the pocket, you can't go on to play in the NFL. I've had to face these things over and over and over again in my life, and how you bridge the gap between there and where I'm at is leadership. And some people can do it and some people can't. And people do it different ways. There's no right formula for it. I figured that out on how to do things that way. And so I plan on taking those same lessons that I've learned, the persistence, the work ethic, the creativity, the drive, and taking that to the Secretary of State's office and burning right through that bureaucratic tape the same way I burned through the bureaucratic tape in all these other areas of my life.
We got two final questions for you. The first one, what would you want for a young person or any person who's coming to your acquaintance to walk away with knowing about you? Just in general, what would you want them to know about you? And then I'll ask the final question. What do you want people to know about Damon Dunn in 30 seconds?
I would say that my current disposition of poverty that I grew up in did not determine my ultimate destination. And I would want them leaving with a sense of hope that whatever and wherever they are in their station in life, that there's something greater out there for them that they can achieve if they're willing to work hard for. And I believe that's really the whole lesson of my whole life. And I truly believe that God put me here and allowed me to go through everything I've gone through, that I might be a ray of hope for people that are dealing with circumstances that seem impossible, that seem difficult, that seem frustrating, that are hurtful, that are painful, there's loss associated with it. But that loss, that pain, that discouragement, that frustration ultimately does not have to determine where you end up. If people can walk away sensing that, for me, then my life has been worth the living.
Okay. I'm a firm advocate of speaking things as though they are and operating today where you want to be.
Right.
So I'm interviewing you today on the first day, in your first 90 days of office as California's new Secretary of State.
Right.
Tell me your agenda.
Well, I want to make sure that we reduce costs. You know, right now we have a bloated, state government, and so I need to go through all the different divisions of our office and find out who's underperforming and make sure they're gone, and people that are performing above expectation and make sure they get raises. Want to make sure you reward the people that are performing. I also want to make sure that we're implementing our jobs program, so we need to organize and figure out one of the appointees, hopefully, that I make. They'll be able to go in and say, you know what, we're either going to do emails, because when you charter corporations, you get all of the contact information. You get the email address, you get the address, and what is the most cost-effective way to reach out to all these different companies and businesses. And then thirdly and lastly, I want to make sure I reach out to all the registrars across the state, across all 58 counties, to understand what are the issues they're facing and for counting votes, and making sure that we are counting votes in a timely fashion. We saw in Riverside County, 20,000 votes didn't even get counted because someone picked them up from the post office too late and they missed before the polling location closed. So 20,000 people who cast votes didn't have their votes counted. And so we need to make sure we're working through best practices across all these counties and figuring out why is Orange County able to get their votes counted within 24 hours, 36 hours of the election, and why counties like Riverside County, cannot accomplish that. So I think that if I'm focused on making sure we bring down our cost by getting rid of the wrong people and increasing the pay of the right people, if we're also putting the jobs program in place, understanding how we're going to reach out to these businesses and collect the data on why they're leaving, and then thirdly, making sure that we're in position to make sure we run our elections effectively, efficiently, sharing best practices across different counties, then I think I would have laid out a strategy in 90 days that will do well for the next 3 years and 9 months.
Great. Let's close on what is your absolute favorite quote?
My absolute favorite quote. I actually made this quote up myself.
Okay, this is a Damon Dunn quote.
It's an adaptation of an existing quote by Robert Frost. Robert Frost said that 2 paths diverged in the woods, and he took the path less traveled. I made an adaptation of that quote by saying 2 paths diverged in the woods, and Damon Dunn took neither. I took out my machete, went down the middle, and made my own path. So I encourage other people to do the same.
Damon, it's been a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.